We begin our speaking portion of our meeting, and our first speech today is by Mr. Lee Ruff. Lee has been enthusiastic about all types of vehicles since he received a tricycle and a bicycle for his 6th birthday. Lee Ruff, my first one, Mr. Lee Ruff, which we will first go to this message from our evaluator. Thank you for all the, Mr. Taylor Morgan. What are his objectives today?
His objectives are select the right words and sentence structure to communicate your ideas clearly, accurately, and vividly. Use rhetorical devices to enhance and emphasize ideas and eliminate jargon and unnecessary words. Use correct grammar. Time 5 to 7 minutes.
Good? All right. So Lee Ruff, my first one, Lee Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. When I close my eyes, I vividly recall the summer of '63. It was a hot summer evening, and my good buddy Ed came rolling up into our driveway on a brand new Honda 50. And after my dad and I inspected it really well, I said, "Dad, I gotta have one of these." And my dad said, "Are you crazy? You get killed on that thing. You need a real motorcycle." So he took me to the Harley shop, and we bought a brand new 1964 Jawa, 250 cc's. However, this isn't about my first motorcycle. I first saw my first one when I was about 8 or 9 years old. My uncle came driving up to my grandparents' circular driveway in this magnificent 1950 Ford two-door club coupe. It was metallic blue. It had full moon hubcaps on it. It was lowered. It had a molded-in grille. It had dual antennas. It had dual exhaust with homemade headers. It had two-barrel carburetors on it, on this flathead. And it had what they called a 3/4 cam, which meant it wasn't quite race, but it wasn't quite stock. And it had real, and I say again, real dual spotlights on it. I was in love from the first moment I saw it. I was hooked. I was a car buff. I could pick out cars. I could tell you the make, model, and year of cars, unlike today. 57 Chevys, 56 Buicks. One of my favorite, 57 Oldsmobile, 1960 Falcon Ranchero. I was in love with all of them. Over my lifetime, I've owned 20 so cars, and I've had 8 motorcycles. But how does a teenager of 15 or 16 acquire his first car? How do you get your dad or your mom to let you have that first car? My grandfather had inherited this 50 Ford from my uncle because they traded cars because my uncle's family was getting too big for it. So he traded for a 58 Chevy Impala, beautiful car. And as my grandfather got a little older and he retired, he had 3 cars, and he said, "You know, Lee's looking for a car. I'll sell him that one." So my dad and I rode down with my mom to Walnut Creek, California, where my grandfather lived, and took possession of this car. And when my dad says, "Well, how much do you want for the car, Grandpa?" My grandfather, being an old Navy guy, said, "A fifth of Old Crow." Well, I was too young to buy it, so my dad had to get it. We drove it home. And on the way home, because of the altitude, this car had never been this high. Flatheads were notorious for overheating, so we took the thermostats out. On those days, there was no freeway. It was all old mountain roads. We got it home. We go down to DMV. And the gal there's asking us questions about the car. And she asked, well, how much did you pay for this car? My dad looked at her and said, a fifth of Old Crow. She looked at us and said, with a bamboozled look on her face, I don't believe you. And my dad insisted that we had paid for this car with a fifth of boost, and it was from my grandfather. She finally relented and didn't cost us anything extra for the licenses. Now, here I am in my dream car. I've dreamed about this car since I was a young boy, but I didn't have a driver's license. When I finally got my driver's license, my dad would let me take the car out every now and then. I remember you had to turn the key on, and then you had to hit a starter button. You don't see that anymore. This car was wonderful. There were no freeways in Reno then. We all go out to Lemon Valley, see how fast our cars would go. Now, in the life of this car, my uncle had tore the transmission out of it one time, and when he put it back together, the only thing he could find were some Lincoln gears to put it in second gear. And he had 3 on the tree. Now, some of you aren't going to know what 3 on the tree are. That's where the shifter's up on the steering wheel. This car would do 95 miles an hour in second gear, but only 100 in third. We had a lot of fun in that car. And one day my dad said because I'd done something wrong, I was grounded and I couldn't drive that car. Darn. My good buddy Joe Cook said, hey, your mom and dad are going out to dinner. Why don't we just take it out for a little while and see what we can do? And he said, well, I only got a couple of quarters and stuff, so we gathered up our change. We had enough to buy about 5 gallons of gas, which was about $2, maybe. So we took the car without permission. Well, my mom and dad came home early. And when I came rolling up in the car, my dad said, give me the keys. And he promptly sold my dream car. It's wonderful to walk down memory lane every now and then and visit what you feel is great in your youth. However, I'm not that hot rod anymore, but I still remember that car. Just Toastmasters.